Xander, his blade drenched in blood, thrust it deep into the chest of the human soldier, expecting him to crumple to the ground. However, to his shock, the soldier pulled out the knife with a roar of pain and fury, continuing to fight as if unaffected. Xander, staring blankly at the wall of the dimly lit bar on the remote space station, recalled the haunting memory of battling the seemingly invincible human soldiers on Kepler 7. Taking a swig of rocket fuel to steady his trembling hands, Xander's old war buddy, Xylo, joined him, noticing the shell-shocked look in his eyes. "I've seen that 1,000-yard stare before," Xylo remarked. "Usually from soldiers who've watched their whole squad get slaughtered. What happened to you?" Xander's knuckles whitened as he gripped his glass. "Kepler 7. My platoon was sent to crush a small human garrison." He began, recounting the events. "Our commanders said it would be an easy win. We outnumbered them 3-1, outgunned them. It should have been a massacre." Struggling to find the words, Xander continued, "These humans? There's something else." Xylo leaned in, intrigued by Xander's distress. "Start from the beginning," he urged. Xander took a deep breath, recalling the moment their ships entered orbit around Kepler 7. As he recounted the battle planetside, he described breaking through the outer perimeter, driving the humans back easily. But when they charged the main base for the killing blow, everything went awry. "As soon as we broke from cover, sprinting across that damned red soil, the humans opened fire," Xander recounted. "It was a slaughter. I've never seen weapons like that. Rapid projectiles tearing through our armor like paper." Xander's hands trembled as he recalled the screams of his squadmates and the sight of their broken bodies strewn across the battlefield. "I don't know how, but we kept advancing," he admitted. "Despite being torn apart with each step, we had our orders, kept hurling ourselves against their defenses." Xylo shifted uncomfortably, recognizing the gravity of the situation. "That's when I saw him," Xander continued, his voice low and haunted. "This human, their commander. He was everywhere, rallying his troops, decimating my soldiers. It was as if he embodied 10 men in one." Shuddering, Xander remembered the fierce determination in the human commander's eyes, his unwavering resolve as he led his men to repel the Xenari assault. "For hours we fought," Xander recounted, "throwing everything we had at them, but they never faltered, never yielded an inch, just kept fighting even as their base crumbled around them." Gritting his teeth, Xander recalled the brutal final confrontation with Commander Harris. "There I was, standing amidst the bombed-out ruins of their command center," he said. "When he emerged from the smoke and debris like a demon out of hell, Commander Harris himself, in the flesh." Xylo's eyes widened as he heard the name. He had heard tales of the formidable human leader whispered among the Xenari ranks, a relentless, unbreakable warrior who had turned the tide of battle on multiple worlds. Xander and Harris circled each other amidst the rubble, two battered warriors sizing each other up. With a roar, Harris charged, colliding with Xander with bone-jarring force. They grappled, exchanging savage blows. Xander's claws tore across Harris's combat armor as the human's armored fists pounded his flesh. Xander had faced warriors of countless species, but none like Jordan Harris. The human matched him blow for blow, fueled by an unbreakable will and a fire in his eyes. As the battle raged around them, with the last remnants of the human defenders fighting to the bitter end, Xander felt a growing sense of respect for his incredible foe. What drove these humans, he wondered, to fight with such passion, such indomitable spirit? The duel stretched on seemingly endlessly, both combatants pushed to their limits of strength and will. A chance misstep on a piece of rubble finally tipped the balance. Seizing his opportunity, Xander tackled Harris to the ground and pressed his blade to the human's throat. Yet, even with defeat looming, the fire in Harris's eyes burned undiminished. He glared defiantly at Xander, daring him to strike the killing blow. In that moment, Xander hesitated, unable to snuff out the life of such a worthy adversary. His warrior's code, his sense of honor, forbade it. Slowly, he stepped back from the fallen human, offering a salute as a gesture of respect. Harris, battered but unbroken, returned the salute before vanishing into the ruins, his fate unknown. Xylo leaned back, stunned by the tale. "I've never heard of a Xenari sparing a human," he remarked. "Why did you do it?" Xander contemplated his empty glass, turning it in his clawed hands. "I saw something in Harris, in all those humans," he explained slowly. "A spirit, a strength of will that surpassed anything I ever imagined. It shook me to my core. Xylo listened, amazed by Harris's last stand. So what happened after? How did it all end? He asked. Xander's face darkened, haunted by the memories. We won in the end, if you can call it that, he replied. Our forces suffered heavy losses, but sheer attrition prevailed. We captured the survivors, occupied what remained of their base. Taking a long pull of his drink, Xander savored the burn. I was tasked with interrogating the prisoners, trying to understand what drove them to fight with such disregard for their lives. Only the mission, he continued. Xylo nodded, understanding the standard practice of debriefing captured enemies. However, he sensed this was different. They wouldn't talk, Xander said bitterly. Not a word. We questioned them for days, offered deals, threatened them, nothing. They just stared at us, silent, defiant, as if mocking us even in chains. Slamming his fist on the bar, Xander's anger reverberated through the room. I even questioned Harris myself. He was in bad shape, beaten to hell. But even then, he just looked at me with those damn unbroken eyes. In the dim light, with blood staining the surroundings, Harris sat calmly like a rock. I asked him straight out what drove him, what drove all of them. And you know what he said? Xander whispered, his voice barely audible. We humans, we don't know how to give up. The words hung heavily in the air, pregnant with meaning. Xylo felt a chill run down his spine. That's when I realized, Xander continued, his tone grave, that's their secret, their strength. Not their guns, not their ships. It's that spirit, that will. They don't surrender, don't break, no matter what. He looked at Xylo, his eyes hard. And that's why we need to be afraid. Why the Empire needs to think hard before taking them on. Because how do you beat an enemy that doesn't know how to lose? Xylo had no answer, just staring into his drink, Xander's words echoing in his mind. Xander stood abruptly, tossing a credit chip on the bar. Thanks for the drink, he said. And the ear. I needed to get that off my chest. Xylo nodded, still processing everything he'd heard. Anytime, friend. You going to be okay? Xander shrugged, a haunted smile on his lips. Who knows? All I know is I'll never forget Kepler 7 or Jordan Harris. And I don't think the Empire will either. With that, he strode out of the bar, leaving Xylo alone with his thoughts and a growing sense of unease about the future of the war. The image of Harris, beaten but unbroken, staring down his captors with unwavering resolve, lingered long after Xander had gone, a specter of the battles to come. Xylo motioned to the bartender for another round, sensing he was going to need it. As Xander finished his harrowing tale, Xylo leaned back in his chair, his mind reeling. He looked at his friend, seeing the haunted look in his eyes, and asked the burning question in his mind. What happened to Harris and the other human prisoners after the battle? Xander's expression darkened, his claws tightening around his empty glass. He stared into the distance as if seeing the ghosts of his past. The Zenari High Command. They didn't see the humans as I did. To them, they were just a threat to be eliminated. Xander explained, his voice low and strained. They ordered the execution of all the prisoners, every last one. They thought it would crush the human spirit, make them easier to conquer. Xylo's eyes widened in shock. And you? He asked. Xander met his gaze, a flicker of defiance in his eyes. I was the one assigned to carry out the order, but I couldn't bring myself to do it, Xylo. Not after witnessing what I had, learning about them. Xander confessed, leaning forward, his voice dropping to a whisper. I made a choice. I defied my orders, arranged for Harris and the others to escape. Xylo stared at him, stunned. You risked everything, he remarked. Xander nodded, a bitter smile playing on his lips. And I paid the price, branded a traitor, forced to flee into exile. I've been running ever since, he admitted, looking down at his clawed hands, recalling the blood they've spilled. But I don't regret it, not for a moment. The humans, their spirit, their will. It's something to admire, not destroy. Xander fell silent, lost in thought, while Xylo tried to process all he'd heard. The implications of Xander's tale, the strength of the human spirit, the lengths they'd go to resist. It was a chilling realization. Finally, Xander drained his glass and stood, his movements heavy with the weight of his memories. He looked at Xylo, a deep sadness in his eyes. For the humans, they're different from us, Xylo, in ways we can't even imagine. And if we ever face them in a real war. He didn't finish the thought, just shook his head and turned to leave. Where will you go? Xylo asked, almost afraid to hear the answer. Xander paused at the door, looking back over his shoulder. Somewhere far away from here. Somewhere the Empire won't find me, he replied before vanishing into the crowded streets of the station, leaving Xylo alone with his thoughts and a growing sense of unease about the future. If you appreciated the story and wish to show your support, please consider leaving a like and subscribing to our channel. Additionally, for each comment containing 88, I will heart every single one. Thank you for your time.